So, but even so, if you're high on one, you're still quite likely to be high on the rest of them. So then the question is, what's the correlation between G and each of these sub-elements of G? And then what's the correlation between the sub-elements of G themselves? So if this was plasticity, and we were looking at openness and extroversion, the correlation here would be about I think it's about 0.5, something like that. And the correlation between openness and extroversion would be about 0.3, quite a bit of difference. But with this, there's G, there's the sub-elements, there's the correlation coefficients, 0.9, almost 0.95, what is that, 6 or 8? 8, 0.8, 0.6, 0.8, 0.8, 0.9 pretty much, 0.9 pretty much. Well, you can fractionate it the best you possibly can. It doesn't matter. It's one thing. It's one thing. And it looks like it's the ability to abstractly represent and then to manipulate the abstractions. I said with working memory, you can get it that simply. How many digits can you keep in your head simultaneously without dropping one? That's it. God. It's unbelievable. It's pretty straightforward. And then it's this viciously powerful predictor of long-term life success, probably a prediction of around 0.5. Now, psychologists hate this. They won't admit that it exists. And I think it's because there's something about intelligence that rubs against our intrinsic egalitarianism, right? There's two things that do it. First, let's say you're successful. You like to think, I'm successful, and you like to attribute it to your own doing. And fair enough, I'm not saying that there isn't an element of it that's your own doing, whatever that means. But if your nerve conductive velocity happens to be high, there's a lot more probability that you're going to be successful. And it's kind of hard to blame that on you or to attribute it to you for that matter. So it indicates a kind of statistical arbitrariness about the distribution of success and failure in our society. Okay, so that's one thing. People don't like that idea. The second thing is that it turns out to be very difficult to raise IQ. Now, it's tricky because it looks like you can raise IQ across whole populations because at least fluid intelligence looks like it's been rising quite substantially over the last 100 years. Maybe as people are better nourished and better educated, but also more prone to continually manipulate abstractions in their life. Because kids start with computers when they're like 2, but if you take a group of people and if you take a group of low IQ people and you try to raise their IQ, it's very, very difficult to manage it without a tremendous amount of investment. That doesn't necessarily mean the investment isn't worthwhile, but it does mean that it's very difficult. Well, the best thing to do, as far as we can tell, the best thing to do is get the nourishment right. That seems to be the most effective. Yeah. So part of the reason, the theory is part of the reason that population IQs have been increasing over the last 100 years is because there's just no one left who's seriously enough malnourished so that it's going to profoundly impact their intellectual capabilities. So breastfeeding seems to raise IQ. So it's 2 points, 3 points with every year of breastfeeding. It's something like that. So it's and that's actually quite a lot. 2 or 3 points actually makes a difference, as it turns out. So, okay, so.